Constellations is a therapeutic modality that helps people experience a different perspective on any system that they are involved in. Anything that involves more than two people is a system, or more than two parties, I should say, because your body is a system, right? Organizations are a system, and they have dynamics that interweave and work together, and one part of a system affects another. This is a foundational understanding in constellations, and originally it was very focused on family inheritance, meaning energetic inheritance, but also practical inheritances, legacy burdens we carry for our ancestors, ways that love gets passed down. Using constellations, we facilitators are able to create what we call the knowing field. And inside of the knowing field, information comes in about whatever system we're trying to access. So, for example, typically you'll have a couple people in the group who will want to be the client. And the client will come up and sit with the facilitator. They'll talk about, yeah, I never really got along with my sister, for example. The facilitator will tune in to the field and then invite somebody to set up a few people as representatives. Typically, what that looks like is I'll say, okay, look around the room at these people who you don't know, and let's set up your sister, you, and your mother. So find three people to stand in as representatives for each of those. And it doesn't matter what they look like, it doesn't matter gender or anything like that. So they'll bring them in. I help them set them up, and setup just looks like I just have the client make eye contact and, put their hands into the hands of the person that's going to be the representative. There's no talking. There's no like explanation. I need you to do this or whatever. It's not role play. And then the people who are representatives stand in the circle, and then they start relating with each other. And I, as the facilitator, start interacting with the system to see what's happening. And this is where the magic part comes in. And I can't tell you why it works or how it works. But if you see it, you'll see that it works. So like I just had one 2 weeks ago. And a friend of mine came who's never seen the work, didn't know what it was. And he was the only male identified person there. And somebody wanted to set up their daughter, themselves, and their mother. And he told me later, he's like, oh, I thought to myself, oh, well, I'm not going to be called in because I'm a male. But they asked him to be the mother. This is pretty typical, actually. People are not chosen based on appearance. People are chosen based on magic in the system that says this is the right person at the right time for this thing, not just for the client, but also for the representative. So he was chosen as the mother, and he described it as being so odd for him because he's a very like Buddhist, loving, generous person. And this mother, the one he was representing, was very stingy with love and very like, get away from me kind of feeling. And it was so odd for him. The client will usually, almost all of my experience, report, yeah, that is how they are. That is what that person is like. Being a representative is a really good challenge to thinking you have to know stuff, because you're not going to know. I don't know as a facilitator. Like I have my guidelines and my training. And then every time I wade out into an unknown ocean, I don't know. And the representatives, like, you absolutely have no idea. But all you can do is tune into your body and listen to your knowing. The client will say, that's just like how my mom is. So it's a really great experience for representatives to have that validation of their different ways of knowing things. When I've done regular circles, I've had friends that come and just participate every month, and they're like, this is intuition training. Everything is voluntary. Literally everything. If you're here and you decide you want to leave, you can. If you're here and somebody asks you to represent and you don't want to, you absolutely have the right to say no. Like nothing about constellations is ever a push. We have permission to do work within our family structure because we come from them. They belong to us. We don't necessarily have permission to gain access to a friend without their permission. because
Okay.
something that may be going on between two friends could be actually about trauma from that friend and their
Mm.
family. If it came up for me, we would just do a check-in about whether or not we had permission. I think for the client, first and foremost, being able to get any kind of other perspective on what you're dealing with is helpful.
Mhm.
um, Getting witnessed in the thing you're struggling with, and other, like, almost always there'll be other people in the room being like, that constellation was helpful for me too. I have
Mhm.
something similar that I am struggling with, and watching what was happening there gives me validation, or it helps me see it another way, or I really feel for you. So that can be
Mhm.
really
Mhm.
helpful. To me also, it's like, when you do a meditation and then you kind of have that greater calm and you're like, oh, I see my life as less of a hubbub because I've stepped away for a minute, and I better understand what I'm struggling with than when it's in my face. I think you get that in constellations. It's like getting the stick out of the river so the river can flow better. That's what it
Mhm.
feels like to me. Sometimes it's like simple words of acknowledgement,
Mhm.
like a really common thing we say in constellations often to a parent. Like, we'll have a client's representative say to a parent, I see that you gave me all that you had to give, and also I needed more than what you had to give. It's like a
Mhm.
very heart opening way of acknowledging, like, you gave what you had and I needed more, and both are true.